world of Unlimited Online is taking shape, and we're here to give you an inside look of the progress we've made on the upcoming tabletop RPG. From the core manual to the Adversary Compendium to the unfolding story module, every page is pushing us closer to a fully realized game world. Whether you're a seasoned TTRPG player or someone who's just stepping into tabletop gaming for the first time, we want to show you exactly what's in store. So let's break it down, starting with the foundation of the game, the core menu.
The core.
Okay, what we're looking at here is the roadmap for the core player's manual. Let's go ahead and start at the bottom and I'll tell you guys exactly what we have done so far. We have the lore of Earth 2069 in the game world. And basically what that means is we did a lot of world building on the Earth of 2069 and the video game world of Gaia. So there's a definite theme in place. And as a player, as a GM, you're going to come in and you're going to be introduced to this setting and you'll have a great time with it. So we have that in the book. We also have the stats and leveling explained. You know, all your major stats, your sub-stats, what they do. We'll have how many skill points you get per level, anything to do with your character progression. It's been done, the mechanics and the systems are in place, and it's in the book. We also have the Earth of 2069 skills, which we have combat, we have RP skills. You could play a lopsided character and say just go straight combat skills, but as far as our storytelling and our modules, we do like to, you know, encourage RP and reward RP just as much as combat. So even if you do play a lopsided character, at least have someone in the party with some good RP skills, because it'll benefit you in the long run. Okay, next we have the occupations of Earth 2069, the perks and the flaws. So that's another way to really fully flesh out your character. You can give them some little quirks there. If you take on some flaws, you can get extra skill points to spend. Also, your occupation really gives us some really good RP hooks. The GM some really nice things he can use for you or against you. It also will determine the type of money you get and start with. But the whole occupation system, you can kind of progress and achieve different occupations, and it's really cool too. There's a lot of advanced skills you can get, and then you have to take certain occupations to unlock. So there's another progression that's really fun to get into. We also have the species and the traits done, and that's in the book, which I really like the approach we kind of came up with. We didn't like how stagnant species are in most RPGs. You pick them at the beginning of the game and you never touch it again. So we kind of created what we call the species growth system. So every couple of levels, you're going to revisit your species and see what kind of perks you have. To summarize the system, each species has a trait pool that you can invest into. So you can go from a human to a high human at a certain level, and you have these really cool skills you have access to. It comes with a lot of RP weight to it, to where being a high human may give you special recognition or certain quests that you can go on. To summarize, on alternative nodes, say you want to play a hybrid, you definitely want to be a cat boy or a werewolf or something like that. You can have a human father and a beastkin mother, and that way you can kind of dip into two species trait pools at the same time. To summarize, we do have a class called the Gene Splicer. The Gene Splicer is really cool because they can start dipping into other species trait pools and picking that out for their skills and their play style, which is awesome. So after that, we have the combat. We definitely have the mechanics in place. That's in the book. Big bulk of the system, which is the classes. And we have all the archetypes present there. We have the acolyte, the mage, the fighter, the thief, the hunter, and the scientist. And we took a novel approach with those as well, where each branch will have 2 to 3 play styles you can try to fit yourself into. And then if you want to do hybrid type play, you can do that as well. But that being said, depending on your class, I would look a class 1 or 2 ahead, just so you plan out your class, because certain skills will have synergy with higher level skills. And another thing we tried to do to say, for instance, you want to go into the acolyte tree, you want to go down the monk branch, you want to end up being a chi master. Well, you start off in the monk, those skills as a monk will still be viable when you're a chi master. Like I said, some of these skills will have synergy. So it won't be that you'll be ditching your previous class for a newer class. It will be building upon it. So I would, like I said, go a class ahead, 1 or 2, just so you can see and plan out your progression there. So we have the classes, they're in the book. Let's go ahead and talk about what's not in the book just yet. We definitely want to spend some time talking about the religions, gangs, and stuff of Earth 2069. There are going to be some factions in there that really will help with the RP of the games, and they really are part of the system and the lore of UO. So we have those yet to put in. We'll definitely want to get the items, the gear, and the crafting situated. So then also the crafting recipes, we'll have to get those in there as well. And once all that's done, we really want to have a nice extensive round of test play. We'll hit a convention circuit and probably go around and give a couple test plays and get some feedback on the system. Once that's done, we can kind of see where everything lies, what people think, and we can start doing some gameplay tweaks. Once the gameplay tweaks happen, we'll do a final edit, and then it's ready to get published. That being said, so far, we're looking at the book has 326 pages in the core manual so far. There's 66 classes so far. There's 162 Earth skills and 204 Game World skills. So we have quite a bit of content in the book already. I want to say we're about 88% done with it, and that's where we are with the core manual.
The Creature Compendium.
Okay, this is where I spent a lot of time developing content. Right here at the roadmap, the Creatures Compendium. Let's go ahead and see what we have done so far. We have the Elemental Affinity System. And basically what that is, you can leverage elemental energies for your benefit. So for instance, you're fighting a bunch of fire affinity monsters. If you use a water sword, you can do extra damage. You're going into a dungeon, it's a volcano dungeon, and there's a lot of heat damage and stuff going on there. You can wear some fire armor and mitigate that damage. So there's also certain classes that can take elemental damage and turn it into a regenerative HP or MP. So that's really cool depending on their skill set. So that system's in place. It's another layer of strategy that you can add to the game. It's really cool to go on there and try to see what you can do to exploit elemental weaknesses of different enemies and situations. So that's been completed in the book. We also have enemy biomes, and what that is that's going to be a tool for the GM. Saying you're having a hard time figuring what monsters you want to have, you have your setting, you want to run a campaign through a cavern ruin. When you look at the enemies in the monster manual, they'll have an icon next to them, and that icon will tell you where that enemy will normally spawn. So you would go through and you would look for, let's say, the cave icon, which indicates a underground enemy, and you can say, okay, well, I can start throwing these enemies in there because they're local to the biome there. So that's a nice little system we have in place to help GMs navigate the book. Then we go into the bulk of the book, which is the actual monsters of UO. That section is divided into two different sections. We have the monsters of Earth 2069, and then we have the monsters of the video game world Gaia. And within those categories, the monsters have ranks. So we'll go from common rank, elite rank, S rank, double S, and cataclysmic grade monsters. So it's very video game-esque. So it's very familiar to a lot of people and makes the game world feel really cool. So that's in place. We also have traps that the GM can use to bring a bit of spontaneity to the dungeons and stuff. So you can actually use the charts we have in place or create your own. Say you're in a place and you can have a D6 and you can take, pick 6 traps from the map, and then you can label them to your number on your D6, and you can roll and see what trap, the party may have triggered. So it's really cool. The traps, the monsters, they're in the book. We also have a section for creating custom adversaries. We might not necessarily have the monster for your fit, but we have the system in place to make sure you create monsters that are gauged properly, that have the correct amount of hit points for your party level, and things like that. So there's also skills that they can pick from depending on their level, but it will help you create your own custom monsters. So that's done in the book. Next, we have the monster skills. There's a ton of monster skills, and they're unique to the monsters only. So there's a lot of those in there. They're in the book. They're really cool. We actually have a avatar class. I think it's the Beast Soul. The Beast Soul can learn monster skills, which gives them a really unique play style, which is awesome. We have crafting loot drops. So what we did with that is we do have a crafting system, and there we'll have what they are, but we also have the enemies populated with what they're most likely to drop. So it makes it really easy for the GM. It's another GM tool. You can go on there and say, okay, I know my party. There's a tailor in there. There's someone that's blacksmithing. You can go through and kind of go through that and see, okay, these enemies drop it. I can pick these. But, as a GM, feel more than free to go ahead and populate your own loot table. That's just a nice little tool we put in there to help those who may be running short on time or don't know exactly what they should put with their monsters. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what's not in the book yet. We want to have a section for powering up monsters, and this is for if you say have a larger party than normal for the module or for what you're running, or you just have some meta players and they're just really hammering down everything you're throwing at them. So the powering up monsters, you can kind of add elemental affinities to them. You can up their HP, and it'll balance that with the XP they should be rewarded and things like that. So just a nice little section to help you, I guess, balance the story and the party out and stuff. Next, we need to tackle the awarding the EXP. So that might come a little bit later after we play a couple of sessions, and we'll know exactly how much experience to reward, because we don't want players to progress too fastly or too slow. So we still have yet to lock down an exact EXP chart for the monsters and things like that. Also, as far as rewarding XP for RP, because we do want to make sure we reward people who get creative, who use their minds and do the RP. So next we have here, we definitely want to get this played and tested a little bit more. So we'll have a round of test play. We'll go to conventions and things like that and put the game into action. We'll see where the enemies end up and where the traps end up, and we'll tweak the stats and all that stuff. After that, will come the final edit, and then we'll publish. The summer out, I want to say it's 80-90% completion. We have 305 pages thus far in the book. There's over 680 monsters and traps, and there's 110 enemy skills within the book already. So that's where we are with the Creature Compendium.
The story.
Okay, here we are, the roadmap of the story module. Let's go ahead and tackle this bad boy. So we do have 4 acts of the story module complete. And what the acts are, let me go ahead and a little bit more into that. We want to have at least 6 to 8 acts per story module. This particular one will probably have around 8. And each act will be a gaming session, and we're planning the gaming sessions to last between 2.5 hours to 4 hours. So you'll have 8 acts and 8 sessions you can play throughout the module. So I don't want to go into too much of the plot of the module. I don't want to give that away. I still want that to be a surprise, but I can tell you kind of how it's set up to give you little guys a little bit more detail on how this module is going to play out. So Act 1, it'll be a nice introduction into the Earth of 2069. They'll give you a lot of the mechanics so let the players get familiar with it, and there's quite a bit of lore dump there, so you guys know the setting and things like that, but it's all really fun and nicely done, and you guys are going to enjoy it. Act 2, we're going to have more of the plot set up there. You'll know exactly what's coming on, what the mystery will be set up, and things like that. Act 3, at the end of Act 3, honestly, we'll go into introducing the characters to Gaia. At the end of Act 3, we'll kind of stop and you'll start creating your character, your avatars for the game world of Gaia. But right before we move on to Act 4, we're going to have a couple of sections in between there. We're going to have a section that has the rules on Gaia, just because we'll be introducing some new mechanics. You'll have willpower, which will determine how long you can stay in the Gaia. You'll have mana, which will determine your spells and spell-like abilities. So there's a couple of key things you need to know within that section. We'll put that right between Act 4 and 5. And then we also have the boot side quest area between 4 and 5. And what that is death in Gaia isn't permanent. Normally, when you die in the video game world, you'll be kicked out and you won't be able to log in for 48 hours. So what happens is there's a possibility that the party might get split up within this story module, and we don't want those that have survived to get all the attention. So we pretty much built in these side quests to where those who have died and have returned to Earth 2069, they have a couple of quests they can go through, so they're not too bored. And they're not very detrimental to the main storyline, but it is an opportunity to get experience, to get some lore, to get some loot. So, and alternatively too, if you want to, I guess, bloat the gaming session a little bit more, you can just go ahead and run through those because it's actually really good content as well. So if you feel like, okay, I don't want this session, I want it to last a couple more sessions, you can go through these side quests as well with the whole party. And then we move on to Act 4, which really has a bunch of quests and more story there. And then what we haven't done yet is Act 6 and 7 and 8, which is going to be, more going towards your climax and the aftermath of that. We also haven't had the adversary charts and the XP charts put in yet. We'll have the guys from the mechanics crew come through, and they'll populate it with the enemies and things. So what we might start doing with story modules, we'll definitely have enemies in the story modules that won't be in the monster manual, so to speak. So that'll be something really cool to look forward to in the story modules. We also got to plan out the loot for it, this particular story module. Also, we want to do the test play here, and then after the test play, we'll tweak things, get the final edit, and we'll be ready to publish the story module. But so far, yes, there's 4 acts done, and as I explained before, each act will be a gaming session. We plan for this story module to be 8 acts, so you'll get 2.5 to 4 hour sessions out of this story module. So, and what you're going to really get out of it, you're going to get a really good introduction to the Earth of 2069, and you're going to get a really good introduction to the world of Gaia. Before we get out of here, I do want to answer one question that a lot of people ask, and that is, when is Unlimited Online coming to Kickstarter? And it's a multifaceted answer there. There is a lot of metrics involved, the fan base being one of them. We're trying to hit a certain benchmark before we go to Kickstarter. And let me stop on that. We are super amazed. We are humbled. We're super excited that so many people are loving UO. It gives us the drive to keep on going. It's a little bit of validation for us. So thank you very so much for being on board with us. But another key factor to why we haven't hit Kickstarter yet is we want to be as close to completion as possible. When we go live, we don't want people to have to wait for their product. So we're trying to get 90 to 99% of the creative process and everything down before we hit Kickstarter. Just because we want to limit that amount of time to where when you pledge and you get your product, we want to actually, when we get funded, we want to just be able to take it to the presses, get it printed, and get it to you guys. So that's another reason why we haven't hit Kickstarter yet. But with all that said, it's going to happen this year sometime. We're going to hit our metrics. We want to make sure our numbers line up, but I can't give you an exact date. You guys have to stay tuned for the exact date we're going to hit Kickstarter, but it will be sometime this year.
Every page, every mechanic, every encounter is bringing Unlimited Online one step closer to reality. We've come a long way, but there's still more to do, and we want you along for the journey. If you are as excited as we are, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated on our progress. And if you have ideas, questions, or just want to hype up the project, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Launching soon on Kickstarter. Like and subscribe to the Unlimited Online YouTube channel.